This is how we plot this point. I need the axis first. So these are my axes. This is the y axis and the z axis. I need an x axis. Make sure you have 3 axes here. Well, they look like 3D, yes. So this is my x axis. This is y axis. And this is z axis. Now I plot my point. Now I'm going to put one on the x. This one. Put it on the x. So I move 1 unit. Let's say this is 1. And then 2 on the y. So you always go parallel. Positive direction, this direction. On the y. Parallel to y. So you go parallel to y, 2 units. 1, 2. Okay? So let me make it neat now. These are my 2 units on the y. And then I go 3 up on the z. Plus means you go up. Okay? That doesn't mean plus. So you go up parallel to the z, 3 units. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So this is your point. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to explain how to do a negative one. Okay? So I'm going to clear and do, let's say, -1, -2, and 3. Okay? So -1 on the x, you go to the other direction. That's -1, -1 on the x. Okay, always start from 0. Huh? And then -2 on the y, we said this direction is positive. So you have to go to the other direction, opposite direction. 2 units, 1, 2. That's your point. -1 on the x, 2 on the y. So it's -2 here. Okay. And then your z is 3. So you go up parallel to the z, 3 units, 1, 2, 3, and you put your point. If they say -3 on the z, if they say -3, then instead of going up, you go down. Okay, so what do? You go down. Parallel, don't worry about what happened, just go parallel to this line. 1, 2, 3, and that's your point. And they ask you what is the distance of AB and what is the midpoint. Let's start with the distance. Whenever they ask you for the distance, you have to put a square root and subtract the x's together. I'm going to highlight them, these 2 numbers. Subtract them. So you get -4 minus 2 square plus highlight the other one, the 10 and the 0. So you just subtract 10 and 0 squared. It's the distance formula, you know, in 2D. We just extend it to 3D, adding this dimension, the z dimension, 4 minus 8. That's it. And you calculate it. You can enter in your calculator, or you can simplify it like this. -6 squared is 36. 10 squared is 100. 4 minus 8 is -4. When you square it, you get 16. Okay, so you get square root of 136 plus 16, 146, 152. Okay, 100 plus 36 plus 16, 6 and 6, 12, 3, 4, 5, 152. That's your distance. You can simplify it if you want. If you're in the exam, and you don't see this answer, put it in your calculator, you get it simplified, okay? Now the midpoint, just use the formula of the midpoint. Okay, so I'm going to delete this. I deleted why? Because I wanted to believe that I finished. Distance or the length, done. We go to the other part, which is the midpoint. And the question, if it is in front of you, you can see what is my question. I wish you open the question in front of you. Okay. So in the midpoint, always find the average. Again, you work x together and y together. Okay, so the x's, find the average of the x's. You add them and you divide by 2. That's your x for the midpoint. Let's call it m. M is the midpoint between A and B. This is A, this is B, this is the midpoint. This length equal this length. And then you do the y's together. This time we add, okay? So 10 plus 0 over 2. It's just a formula. And then we take the z dimension. You do the same. What you do for x, you do for y, you do for z. You do the same thing. Just add now and simplify. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. 10 plus 0 is 10 divided by 2, 5. 4 and 8, 12 divided by 2, 6. This is your midpoint. This one and this one. I'm recording it, so I wish that grade 11, all of them, I'm going to send them the video. I'm going to edit it and send it to everyone. So if they ask you to find the area of a parallelogram like this is a parallelogram. And usually they give you two adjacent vectors, like this vector v and this vector u. They are two adjacent sides. Adjacent, that means next to each other. So if they give you these two vectors in the space and they ask you find the area of the parallelogram, you just find this cross product u times v. Okay. To find the area, you just find the cross product and then find the magnitude. I highlighted here the magnitude. So you find this vector u cross v, and then you find the magnitude. This magnitude is the area. Okay, so I'm going to explain how to do it. Cross product, we learned it, how to do it. We just do this matrix. I should keep the highlight. Okay. Right. So you take the matrix, the determinant actually, this determinant, always put I, J, and K, okay, in order. I first, J second, K third. Then put your components, 2, 4, and negative 3. These are the component of the first vector, 2, 4, negative 3, put them here. And then you put the component of the second vector, which are 1, negative 5, and 3. You put them next. And then you calculate this determinant. To calculate it, I explained this actually. The only new thing is that this determinant, it gives you a vector, and the magnitude of this vector is the area of the parallelogram. That's the only extra thing. But again, I explain. So what do you do? Let me highlight for you so you understand what I'm talking about. To calculate this determinant, okay, first you put this I, and you put determinant 2 by 2, this one. Okay, it is. Can you see it? Just like that. Okay, after that, you must put a minus. When you come to J, this J should be with minus. This minus J. And then you put the determinant of J, you cross this and you cross this. You get only 2, 1, negative 3, and 3. I'm going to highlight it. Okay, so what do? You take 2, 1, and negative 3, 3. Here it is. Okay. And then you go and put UK, right? You put UK, this K, with plus, and you put the determinant that is not with K, not in the line, not in the row, not in the column. Always cross these two. After doing the class, you have to cross these two. And then you get your 2 by 2 determinant. Right, I have seen some of you in the class, in the homework, they are still confused about how to multiply this determinant. To multiply this determinant, use cross multiply. So it's 4 times 3, 12. Negative 3 times negative 5, 15. And you must put minus between. This is in the rule, this minus. It's not plus, it's minus. So if you do 12 minus 15, you get negative 3. That's negative 3i. I repeat with the second one. Make sure you put the minus in the middle. Okay? So we finished with I. We go to j. You do the same. 2 by 2 determinant has one way to be calculated with. Okay? So what do? You do a cross multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. And a minus. Okay, all this should be multiplied by j with this minus. Okay, so calculate it. Minus with minus plus. 6 plus 3 is 9. So you get minus 9j. And that's what you have here. How do we calculate this one? Again, I repeat. Okay, I hope by now you know what I'm doing. Multiply 2 by negative 5, you get negative 10. Multiply 1 by 4, you get 4, and you put minus in the middle, not plus. So you get negative 6k. Look at the answer. What is this? 14k. Why? Yes. Minus 10 and minus 4. How silly I've been. Minus 10 and minus 4 is negative 14. So you get negative 14k. Okay, that's it. After you do this, you have finished the cross product. You need to find the magnitude. Okay, the magnitude of this vector, u cross v. So the magnitude, you know, x squared, y squared, z squared. Whenever you have a vector with component x, y, z, it's like the distance. The magnitude of this vector is square root of x squared plus y squared plus z squared. This is the rule. So you take negative 3, you square it. You take negative 9, you square it. You take negative 14, you square it. And put it in your calculator or do it manually, it's up to you. You get square root of 286. This number is the area. That's the new thing. This magnitude is the area. So the area of this parallelogram is nearly 16.9, 16.9. Okay, for example, if they ask you to find this area, parallelogram with these vectors are adjacent, first you do u cross v. When you finish, you do magnitude of u cross v. This is the area. Very simple, you have just to put your determinant, so u cross v. Maybe some of you have worked this out and I'm writing on the paper. So you put I, j, k, and then you put negative 6, negative 2, 3, 4, 3, 1. When you have k only, that means 1, the component. And then make sure with j, you put the minus, okay? So you put equals, so if you cross these two, you get this, negative 2, 3, 3, 1. That's times I, okay? If you cross now the j part, okay, with minus, you get minus, and then you get negative 6, 4, 3, 1, j. Okay. Now, we cross the k column and row. We cross the k column and the k row. And we get plus -6, -2, and for 3. Please just remember how to do it. This is times k. One more time. You have to do cross multiply here, so you get -2. 3 times 3 is 9, but with minus. This is I. Minus, here you do cross multiply, -6, -12. Make sure you put the minus, times j. Plus -6 times 3 is -18. And -8 with minus plus 8. This is k. Simplify, -11i, -6 and -12 is -18 with minus plus 18, plus 18j, and then -18 plus 8 is -10, k. This is your cross product. Area equals, very simple, square root 11 squared plus 18 squared plus 10 squared. That's your area. Just calculate it and you're done. I'll go to the next page. Volume. Again, this volume, if you get a 3D shape like this, they give you 3 vectors, okay, that are the edges, adjacent edges, 1, 2, and 3. And they ask you to find the volume. To do that, we have what we call a triple scalar product. Okay, you calculate it this way. This is the formula. There is a cross multiply here, and there is a dot multiply. So you have 2 operations, but you do them in one go. You don't need to do cross multiply and then the answer multiply by the dot. This determinant helps you to do it in one go. Just put all the component of t, component of u, component and v, and you do like the cross product, but this is not cross product because you get scalar. Okay, it's a vector times vector at the end, you get scalar. So I'm going to show you in this example how to do that. Find the volume of the parallelepiped with adjacent edges t, u, and v. So as you can see, I used colors to explain. You can see here, this vector, you put the component at the top. In this case, we don't put I, j, k. We put the first vector. Okay, and then this vector, we put the component in the determinant, as you can see, the second one. And the last vector, you put them. And you calculate the same way I was explaining. But instead of putting I, j, and k, you put 4, -2, and -2. Here they are, in the place of I, j, and k. Okay? So I put that, make sure always you put minus. It doesn't matter j or number 2 or -2. Always in the middle one, this one, you have to put minus. That's why they have minus here. Okay? And do the calculation, just cross product, as I said. You calculate, you get 34. That's a positive number. So it's your volume. Make sure it's the absolute value. Okay, maybe I said it here. Yeah, it's the absolute value. So whatever you get in the answer, if it is positive, you take it as it is. Let's say you multiply, you get minus 34. The volume is still 34 because the volume is positive. Okay, volume, area, distance, always positive. Okay, that's it. You want me to do this one? T times, sorry, not times, dot. T dot U cross V. And actually, it's actually the determinant. And you take the component of T. What are they? There is no I. So what do we put for I? It's 0I. If you don't see I, that means it's 0I. Okay? 0I equals 0. That's why. If it was 1I, you see I. Okay, so it's 0. So for I, you put 0. For j, you put 2. Okay, put -5. We are done with this. We go to the second vector, -6, -2, and 3. We go to the next vector, 4, 3, and 1. Now we just calculate. All this is 0, yeah? So you put 0 because you multiply by 0. So what do? You just say volume equals absolute value of 86. And because it is positive, so let's put 86 unit cubed. That's it. You want to try to do this one? Okay, tell me, what should we do here? They're not asking you to find the volume because the volume is given. Can you see it? They're asking you to find this C. Okay, so what you need to do is just put your volume equals the way you calculate it, V dot W cross U. Calculate it in terms of C. Don't worry, you're gonna find an answer at the end with C. Okay. So to calculate it, just put your determinant -2, -1, 4, and then 1, 0, -2, and then C, -3 and 1, and you calculate it. You get 2C plus 1. I've explained the calculation. If you want me, I can explain it again. But I wish you do your calculation yourself. This is what you get. Now the volume, if you want me, I can explain it for you. The volume is given 7. So we put the absolute value of 2C plus 1 equals 7. And we solve. Here, you need to remember that when you solve absolute value like this, you have to put 2C plus 1 equals 7, or 2C plus 1 equal -7. You remember this? Because absolute value of 7 is 7, absolute value of -7 is 7. That's why you have to put it equal 7 or equal -7. That's why. Now, if you solve 2C plus 1 equals 7, subtract 1, you get 6. Divide by 2, you get 3. This is one value of C. If you solve 2C plus 1 equals -7, subtract 1, you get 2C equal -8. Divided by 2, C equal -4. As you can see, we have two answers. Go back here. This is the question. Thank you. So if I look here, I can see that my vector, which vector? This one, U. How comes they accept C? C is the X. C is the X. As you can see, C is the X. Okay. So in this X, between these two vectors, the X is in the positive. This is my vector. The X is positive. Okay. That's why we accept 3. We don't accept -4. If this vector was going to the other direction, we accept -4. Okay. You need to look at the diagram to decide which C you take. Okay, so C equals 3, we accept the positive one. But when you solve, you have to solve like this, so you get both values and you reject the negative one. It's not because it's negative, because of the position of the vector u. Vector u, this vector, as you can see, is coming to this direction with x positive.